What's going on, fam? Welcome to the Adonime podcast, where we watch anime with the redemptive eyes of a Christian believer. My name is Manny, and today we're going to be going over the brand new anime that is called Frieren Beyond Journey's End. So this anime is falls under the categories of adventure, drama, fantasy, and shonen. And this anime was actually made by the same studio that made Attack on Titan and Ranking of Kings, just to name a couple. So, and from what we see so far, the quality is definitely there. The visuals are incredible, beautiful animation. And this is one of the most anticipated new animes for this fall. So yeah, this anime actually has a rating of TV 14, and so far I say it's a safe rating. But with just the first episode, I know that they released the first 4 episodes from the get-go, but I just decided I'm going to stay with how I've been doing it. I'm just going to go over the first episode, though in this episode I'm going to be doing it a little bit different. So I'm going to be basically going over what happens in the first episode and then going step by step and showing things that concern me, things that maybe we can learn from, or maybe some things that we can look forward to, some potential Christian values that we can learn from. So yeah, with just the first episode, it's kind of hard to tell how safe this rating is, but from the first episode, we already see that there's drinking, there's mentions of demons. We haven't seen any yet, but other than that, there isn't anything crazy in it. There isn't any crazy cleavage or fan service whatsoever. There's not really much cursing. I don't think I remember any cursing whatsoever. I could be wrong on that though. But for the most part, I hope it stays that way, but we just always have to be on our toes with anime. So in the start of the first episode, we see the heroes. They're coming from a long journey after defeating what they call the Demon King, but we haven't seen him yet up to this point, at least not in the first episode. And the 4 heroes are Hummel, the hero, Aizen, the warrior, Haitar, the priest, and Frieren, the mage, who is an elf. And that becomes pretty important because the other heroes are humans, which means Frieren can live a long time in contrast to the humans. So that's going to be important later on. So in this moment, they seem like they're ready to settle down. They talk about looking for work. Interesting enough, there's the priest, right? Haitar, and he says he hopes he can find a job where he can drink. And one of them says, "Aren't you a priest?" And they just laugh. And honestly, I was like, really? From the get-go? Like, this is how it's... it's kind of weird to me because obviously it's a priest, and a priest in general has a responsibility to stay away from strong drinks, as he should always be sober-minded. An occasional drink is fine here and there, but I've been seeing a pattern with a lot of different anime and their priests and how they always become drunks and how they love drinking, and or they were once really holy, quote unquote, and then they turn to drinking, and like, goodness gracious. For me that's really worrisome because I mean it's good to point out that everyone has their weaknesses and their past, and we can fall into drunkenness because we're all sinners. But for a priest, there's a very high calling from God, at least for Christians, right? So the calling is from God and not from men. They are responsible they will be responsible for their actions to a much greater degree, according to the scriptures. There's a higher standard for them. So it's important to keep that in mind and not let this pattern be normal for us. And unfortunately, this anime is giving us a picture of a priest that just loves getting drunk. So that's a little concerning, but we're going to keep going. So they get to the new kingdom, and the king honors them and plans to build statues for them. And the whole kingdom celebrates with dancing and drinking and music. And during the celebration, they're reminiscing about their journey, and it's lasted 10 years up to this point. And Frieren specifically makes it sound a bit unexciting and unimportant. Like she's not emotionally there with them. And it's pretty obvious. And at the same time, they're watching what they call the Era meteor shower that happens every 50 years. And Frieren promises to show them a place where they can see the meteor shower much clearer when the next one arrives. And then the next morning, they say their goodbyes to Frieren, who decides to live in the Central Lands by herself and travel on her own to collect spells. And then time passes, 50 years to be exact, and Frieren, who is looking for a shadow dragon horn, returns to the kingdom to find Himmel, the hero, who is now very old, and he gives her the horn. So he's very old now, but she looks exactly the same. She looks like a young adult. So and Hightar and Eisen also show up, and they take a week long journey to the place, which is a lake and a forest, and they see the beautiful meteor shower. And because of this, they return to the kingdom, and Himmel passes away of old age. And when he passes away, he's very happy. So while he's watching the shower, the meteor shower, he's very happy, reminiscing. I'm so glad that I got to witness this with you guys, and I'm just so happy. We have such great memories, all this stuff, and he dies very happy. So at the funeral, Haitar and Eisen seem happy for Himmel because he died happy. But Frieren actually becomes emotional, which up to this point is kind of weird coming from her because she's been emotionally absent. So she starts saying that she had that journey with Himmel for 10 years and doesn't know a single thing about him. She felt sorrowful that she didn't care enough to know him better, stating that life is way too short for humans. And in this moment, I really felt that. And I'm sure all of us in some way have felt that way about someone or people in general. And this kind of reminded me of a song. It's actually one of my favorite songs from when I was growing up. It's a song by Brandon Heath, who's a Christian singer, who made a song called Give Me Your Eyes. And I recommend listening to it if you haven't. But this song speaks about how he had a hard time caring about people around him. And the chorus is basically a prayer to God, asking him to give him eyes to see people the way God sees people, with love, with a desire to help, and just a desire to care for them, right? And Frieren finds herself crying in regret, wishing she could go back and treasure these moments with this person that is now dead and be part of a happy relationship and friendship, to have the good memories and, like Haitar and Eisen, be happy that they got to share a good life. We as Christians should be vigilant in these things. Relationships are beautiful. They can be messy, but God has a way of bringing life to people through them. We should be intentional about getting to know people, caring about them, and showing love and compassion towards them. And it starts with those who are closest to us. Because a lot of times we tend to, the people that are closest to us, we tend to give them the less amount of our time. And once they're gone, that's it. They're gone. And we didn't get to appreciate that the time with them. And we have to wake up to that. And I pray that God would help us to be a church that truly cares about people and desires to have healthy relationships and peaceful relationships with everyone in general. So after the funeral, Haitar says goodbye as he heads out for the holy city where he dwells, and he happily tells Frieren to offer him a drink at his grave because obviously he's pretty old too. And Frieren then asks Haitar, "Aren't you're not afraid of dying?" And he says, "We're the party of adventurers that saved the world. We'll surely be living the good life in heaven after death. That's the whole reason I fought alongside you." And Frieren just says, "You corrupt priest." And Haitar just laughs. And that's like, in this first episode, that's the thing that's said the most. It's just Haitar saying something crazy and Frieren just reacting by saying, "You corrupt priest." And he's just laughing it off, like if it's some kind of joke. And I want to touch on this briefly because it seems like Haitar the priest has this idea that he has done one of the best acts that you can do. And because of that, you deserve to go to heaven. But as we see at his response, it comes off pretty selfish. It sounds like he only cares about his eternal safety and thinks that what he has done will save him. And it's important to understand that for us Christians, that's not the right attitude to have whatsoever. Now, I want to share the scripture, the book of Matthew, chapter 7, verses 21 to 23. "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but the one who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. On that day, many will say to me, 'Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and cast out demons in your name, and do many mighty works in your name?' And then I will declare to them, 'I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of lawlessness.'" So our works, what we do, no matter how good we think they cannot save us outside of faith in Jesus Christ. If you are face to face before Jesus and he asks you, "Why should I let you into my kingdom?" and you tell him something that you did, or you saved someone, or you were a good person, this and that, that's not going to get you in. The only thing that's going to get you in is faith in Jesus. So I want to share another scripture, the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verses 8 through 9. "For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast." I also wanted to share, there's a song called "Forgive Me for Asking" by a Christian rapper named Propaganda. And you should really, really check out the whole entire song. It's really, really deep and really impactful and powerful. But I wanted to share some of his lyrics, and it says this: "You ever bury yourself in self-righteous guilt? Are there fresh tally marks on the walls of your brain's prison, hoping that the count of good deeds outnumber the bad ones? Are your miserable failures your badges of honor? And when you count those tallies, and the day the good outnumber the bad, pat yourself on the back. You have joined the rest of humanity. You too are lying." So let's not be deceived. Every one of us are not as good as we think. We are sinful people at heart, in need of rescuing, and we can only be rescued by putting our faith in Jesus and the blood that he shed for our sins, because he lived the perfect life that we should have lived. He died the death that we should have died, and the death that we fully deserved, but he rose from the dead, proving that he is the Son of God and that he can be trusted, so that everyone who puts their faith in him can have eternal life. That is the gospel. It's about what he did, not what we did or can do. It's all about Jesus, not us. And Haitar the priest gets this wrong, and it's important to point that out. So, continuing. After that, Frieren sets out on her own, telling Eisen that she will continue collecting spells, but now she wants to try to learn more about humans. So she sets off, and time passes, and now 20 years have passed after Himmel the hero's death. So 70 years have passed since the beginning of the episode. And Frieren is headed to the holy city of Straw in the Central Lands to find Haitar, where he dwells. and she finds him in the woods outside of the city. They have some drinks. I think it was tea, since apparently Haitar had given up drinking at this point, which is at least good to see. And Haitar asks Frieren to take his very young servant girl as her apprentice to be a mage. But she thinks they'll die in battle too quickly, so she says no. So he asks her for a different favor. He tells her that he found a mage book that could contain secrets of immortality. So he asks her to decipher it. It turns out he's actually afraid of dying. And on top of that, he takes something that their holy text says and twists it to say it's a good decision to cheat death, which Frieren rightly responds with, "You corrupt priest." And he laughs it off as usual. So at this point, it's just becoming comedy. But continuing on. So in this moment, he asks her to teach Fern, who's the servant girl, how to do magic in the meanwhile in her free time. And she says she'll do it. So she goes out to the woods to find her wandering around. And with difficulty, she finally finds her and realizes she has exceptional control over her mana. And that's what made it so difficult for her to find, because she couldn't sense her. I guess it's like I guess in Star Wars terms, it's like feeling the Force or something, for those Star Wars nerds that can appreciate me. If not, I'm so sorry. But Frieren is marveled at how Fern can do that at such a young age. So Fern is from a cliff, trying to reach a rock from another cliff in front of her with her staff. And with her staff, she like shoots a magic beam or something to try to hit the rock, but it doesn't reach. So Fern is showing her a bit of her magic, and Frieren asks her if she likes magic. And she says, somewhat. To which Frieren happily says, just like me. And the episode ends. So this anime was very interesting. The animation, as we went over, it's pretty cool. And though it's not on the more realistic style of animation, it's very artistic. It's beautiful to watch, the scenes and details. I'd say it's like in between Attack on Titan and, like I said earlier, Attack on Titan and Ranking of Kings. Attack on Titan is, for the most part, very realistic. And then Ranking of Kings is very, very artistic, very, very cartoony. No, well, not cartoony. Very simple drawings, yet beautifully made. And imagine in that, both of them in between, that would be the animation for this. It's not 100% realistic, but it's definitely not 100% cartoony. So it's very artistic. It's beautiful to watch the scenes and the details. The characters are really interesting. I'm curious to find out how they're going to continue the story, because I've seen the posters. I've seen the posters of this show, and those characters that were introduced to us, one already died, and the other two are obviously very old, but in the posters they're young. So I don't know if maybe she's going to go back to the past and then she's going to actually live out the life that she wanted to live. That would be really interesting, but I don't know exactly where they're going to take it. And I know that there's one more character that hasn't been introduced yet in the first episode. So I'm really interested to finding out who that character is and what role they're going to play with this whole story. But so far, the characters are really interesting. I have to say, I'm very curious about Frieren and how she will grow throughout the anime and what her relationship will be like with Fern. If she's actually going to mentor her, if they end up having like like a sisterhood or a nice teacher-student relationship, it'd be really cool to see Frieren as a teacher, to see how she learns from that. And Fern also intrigues me a lot as well, since someone like Frieren says that she seems to have specific extraordinary skills so young. And Obviously, that's a big compliment coming from a hero that saved the world. So I want to know more about her past and how she thinks, and I really want to see how her life is going to turn out. And same thing with Frieren. Like with Frieren, we don't know anything about her past whatsoever. We don't even know how old she is. So because she's lived such a long life, I'm guessing at this point, I can imagine that she's gone through a lot. I wonder where her parents are, or she even has parents. We haven't even met any other elves. Like that's a whole nother topic. Like, are there any more elves? Is she the last one? I have no clue. But I'm really interested in getting to know Fiat, and she seems kind of cool. I really like the fact that she's not 100% emotionally there. Makes me interested in seeing if that's going to change in the future, which is going to be awesome if she has a hard change, but still keeps her personality. Just the good parts of her personality. So yeah, other than the priest, that really just made me cringe every time he said something. I was like really annoyed with this guy. I don't think. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the fan base, but I really don't like him. To be quite honest with you guys, I really don't like him. But I mean, it is what it is. It's part of the story. But other than that, I really enjoyed the beginning of the story, and it has me wanting more. It really does have me wanting more, and it seems like there's so much more that they can that there's a world that they can build out of all of this. This is also the type of show that really interests me, where they have magic, they have swords, and they have shields and horses and that kind of stuff, like medieval type. That I really like stories like that for the most part. So me personally, I'm excited about this show. And it seems like it's going to be a story where Frieren learns about people, about caring about them. So there's a lot of potential here for great lessons that we can get from this anime. But always remember, be careful with anime, because sometimes they'll throw a left hook out of nowhere. And it's like, wow, they really went there. But it's TV 14, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. It shouldn't be too bad, but let's see how it goes. So that's it. I really wanted to talk about the intro and the outro songs to do like a lyric breakdown, but I felt like that would be a little too much for an episode like this. So I'm going to do that separately, which will be really cool because I really like the intro. I heard the outro as well, but I didn't pay too much attention to it. But I do know that there's some English in it, so that'd be interesting. But the intro song is really, really good. I really enjoyed the intro song. The animation in the intro song is really beautiful. I really enjoyed the songs for this anime. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to do a lyric breakdown for both of those songs. I just don't know how I'm going to do it, because with just 2 songs, it might not be enough content for for a full-on episode. But I think there is actually a 3rd song for an outro that is used as an outro. So it's very possible that the outro changes later on in between the first and 4 episodes, since I've only seen the first episode and I haven't seen the other 3 that came out at the same time. So maybe I could do it. But it's really exciting. I'm excited to do it, and I hope you guys are too. So this is the first one, the first anime that we cover for the fall season. So let us know on Instagram at Adonime Podcast if there are any other animes that you'd like us to cover. Again, I'm going to be covering the most anticipated anime shows that are brand new, because there's also other animes that are coming with a second season, 3rd season, whatever. But I'm going to be focusing on the brand new animes that are the most anticipated. So that's it, guys. That's all I got. That's my reaction to the first episode of Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, grace and peace. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this episode of the Adonime Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating. You can also follow us on Instagram at Adonime Podcast. Until next time, grace and peace.